Dāng tsō jē chōng nām lā, jāng chō bār dō dā nē jā sō jē, dā jē chō shē jē bē sō nām jē. Dō lā bēn jē sāng jē chō bō rā shō, sāng jē chō dāng tsō jē chōng nām lā, jāng chō bār dō dā nē jā sō jē. dā jē chō shē jē bē sō nām jē, dō lā bēn jē sāng jē chō bō rā shō, sāng jē chō dāng tsō jē chōng nām lā, jāng chō bār dō dā nē jā sō jē. dā jē chō shē jē bē sō nām jē, dō lā bē jē sāng jē chō bō rā shō, sāng jē bē jē chō shē mē dō chā mā rē rā līng shē nī dē jē bā dē, sāng jē shē dō mī dē bē wā nī, chō gē nām dā shē lā jē bā rā shō, yē dā mā gu rō rā nā mē dā lā kā nē, dā rā yā mē. Please set your motivation to that of the Bodhisattva, which is to attain enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. And so with the proper motivation, we will delve into today's topic, which is the praise to the dependent origination, written by Lama Tsongkapa. So if you remember, we have covered two stanzas. So the first one is to praise the Buddha Shakyamuni. The first paragraph or the first stanza consists of the concise summarization of the whole text. So what we call in Tibetan Lügi Namsha. So in which we see that the main topic of that this particular book is dependent origination, and we are praising the Buddha Shakyamuni for sharing his knowledge, his understanding, his realization of the reality, his understanding of the reality, which is dependent origination. So for that, we are grateful to him, and we praise him for not only his accomplishment, not only for his feat in discovering the truth, but also for sharing that with us. So, and as you remember, last week, we talked about the fact that it is important in two reasons. For 2 points, for 2 points. This is this feature is lauded for 2 points. One is because one is for the fact that the Buddha taught what he knew, which means it is the truth. So he did not lie, he did not try to fool us. And the second one is that whatever he has discovered, so he shared that with us. For example, if we gathered treasure of knowledge or treasure of anything, any form of treasure would be, for a number of us, if we gather a large amount of treasure, it would be quite difficult for us to pass or share it with others. But with the Buddha, there is no such stinginess in regards to his understanding, his realization, and his sharing that with us. So for that, we are grateful. So these two are very important. Then we covered about the 4 points of writing, or of composing a book, particularly a Dharma book, in which you need to have a purpose, you need to have a topic, there should be a purpose, there should be an ultimate purpose, there should be a topic, and all three should be connected. So the topic of the book being dependent origination, and the ultimate topic of, the purpose of the book being the dependent origination, so that people can understand dependent origination, and the ultimate purpose being through the understanding or through the realization of dependent origination, one gains insight into the reality of phenomena, and thus attains enlightenment. So that being the that is the ultimate purpose, and the topic being dependent origination. So we have the purpose, ultimate purpose, and the topic or the subject, and all of them are related to each other, connected or related to each other, or one bringing the other. From the topic comes the purpose, and from through by indulging or by by utilizing by getting involved in the purpose, one reaches the ultimate purpose of enlightenment. So they're all connected. So that is what we covered last week, and then we went one more line, which is the second line, or the second sort of paragraph, or the second stanza. So that is that whatever regenerations there are in this world, the root of all that is ignorance. So ignorance, establishing ignorance as the root cause of all misery, all degenerations, or so anything negative, anything bad, anything miserable is sourced to ignorance. So so ignorance is, so we lightly use the word ignorance. In Tibetan, we use the term marikpa. So ignorance is usually, so they are more or less synonyms. So for ignorance, we use a term called mongba, which is closer to dumbfoundedness. So being dumbfounded, or being dumbfoundedness. That is the exact translation, I think, would be sort of the literal translation would be of mungba is something like, is much closer to dumbfoundedness than ignorance. And then the term used here in Lama Tsongkapa's writing, Lama Tsongkapa's dependent origination, is Jigden Guba Chinyapa Te Tsawa Marikte. So Marikpa in Tibetan, in Tibetan we call it Marikpa, or in Sanskrit Avidya. Marikpa is, so there are two two lines, two sets of words here. There is the ma and the rikpa. Rikpa or rikpa is to realize, to see, and ma is a negative word, so it negates the following term, which is seeing. So when we say marikpa, we are actually, that little translation of marikpa is unseeing. Avidya, avidya being seeing or realization in Sanskrit, and being a negative word. So it actually negates the following term, which is vidya, or to see. So marikpa is unseeing. So when one unsees the causes and conditions of what is to become, what is to be befallen, then one makes the mistake of doing something which should not be done, and therefore this leads into a string of misadventures or miseries. So therefore, in order to avoid any forms of misery, any forms of degenerating, one needs to stop the very cause of all that, which is unseen. So in order to stop that, in order to stop unseeingness, you have to in order to stop unseeingness. So unseeing here is not when we say unseeing, we are talking about not seeing or unseeing the reality of all phenomena, reality of any phenomena, reality of phenomena, which is that no phenomena arise by its own, on its own, that any phenomena is dependent upon another entity to be existent, either through either through cause and conditions or through labeling and designations. So a number of permanent things, such as space and so on and so forth, they had to be, they can only be conceived, through labeling, because one cannot see through direct naked eyes space or number of permanent phenomena, like we see impermanent things, such as forms or light, or a mug or car or anything like that. So ignorance being normally, usually the term that we widely use is ignorance. So ignorance is the root of all these the degenerations, and specifically the ignorance towards the reality of phenomena is the root cause. So each ignorance is the corresponding. Each ignorance is the corresponding cause for each misery, each sort of misery, each form of misery. But the root of all miseries is the ignorance towards the reality of phenomena. So Buddha taught us that the dependent origination, so Buddha taught us that through seeing the dependent origination, through seeing the dependent origination, one will be able to undo with the ignorance, the ignorance of not realizing the reality, not realizing the truth or the reality, not realizing the reality, not seeing the reality of all phenomena. So the reality of all phenomena is, of course, that they do not possess any form of existence on their own, and that they are all dependent upon another factor to become existent, so to speak. And that sort of dependency upon other factors is the very essence of all phenomena. So therefore, by seeing that all phenomena are dependent upon other things, you see that things are not existing automatically. Things are not existing on its own. Things exist through dependence upon others. So therefore, we are grateful to the Buddha for teaching, for imparting that particular teaching. So now we will go to the third line. So upon seeing such, so since, as we can understand from the from this point, from the point we just explored, that the reality of all phenomena is that they have no inherent existence, and to prove that, there is no better solution than to provide evidence. There is no better solution to provide evidence for things having no inherent existence than to provide the phenomena, the idea that all phenomena are dependent upon another factor, another entity. So since if any phenomena depend upon another factor, another phenomena or another entity to be or to become existent,
then it is much easier to understand, much easier to comprehend that all things, no phenomena, have an inherent existence. If everything is dependable upon others, then we can say for sure that nothing is independent, because they are all interdependent. So interdependency and interdependency and interdependency are two contradictory things. So if all things are interdependent, then we can assume with certainty that nothing is independently existing. If nothing is independently existing, then we can assume, we can infer from this logic that nothing, from the logic that nothing exists independently, we can infer that everything is empty of having an inherent existence or an independent existence. So therefore, so this is something. So if logically speaking, if we utilize our intelligence and use logic, we will see that this is the case. And so therefore, any person with intelligence can see that this is the thing, this is the truth. So and therefore, the essence of Buddha's teaching, of course, the purpose of Buddha's teaching is to liberate us, to deliver us from samsara to enlightenment. And in order to do that, we need to unshackle remove the shackles of ignorance that is actually binding us. And in order to do that, the best, we are not necessarily bounded by physical limitations. Rather, mentally, we have bounded ourselves. We have bounded ourselves with the wrong view, with the misunderstanding of reality, that all phenomena exist or arise from their own side, that all things are independently existing entities. And when we realize that it is not so, that nothing is independently existing, then we will be able to ascertain, we will be able to ascertain ourselves that things do not exist on its own, but through dependence upon other factors. So therefore, whatever we assume to be the root cause of our problems in a general worldview, that is not the case. What I'm trying to say here is, for example, when we have a argument with someone, or when we have an argument with someone, or we have a irritation towards something, we usually feel like that is the main cause, or that is the very personification, that is the very embodiment of whatever evil or negativity that you feel inundated with. But the fact is that that is not the case. It is actually the it is actually a collection. It is actually the collection of a number of instances and incidents. It's a collection. It is a collection of number of incidents put together, which makes you feel irritated, suffocated, threatened, so on and so forth. And when you are able to see all things as they are, in the very minute detail of how they are formed, then you will no longer be terrified of the theatrically frightening image that you are witnessing. For example, when you see anyway, for example, when you go to for the audience, when they see something in the theater, let's say a scary mask or a scary monster or something, it does have the effect of frightening them. But for the artist, it doesn't, because they know how, how they made it. So everything from the ear, the horns to the fangs and the blood and everything is fake. They knew that. So they knew that each minute detail of how this monstrous looking mask is made. So therefore it is no longer scary. But for the audience, they see everything as a whole. When they see, what they see is a scary mask, or a scary face. They don't a scary face with blood spurting out and something in that manner. Not in the sense of, oh, that blood is actually made from ketchup, or the horn is actually made from papier-mâché, and so on and so forth. So the audience has no idea of such, and it has the desired effect. So when we are able to see the things for what they are, then we will no longer be frightened, no longer be worried, no longer be threatened, no longer be inundated by, and no longer be smitten by whatever appearance they seems to be. They seems to form up, whatever appearance they seems to form up. We know of what minute objects it was made from, it was made of. So when we can see, for example, when we look at a jigsaw puzzle, when we look at a jigsaw puzzle of let's say a beautiful picture, so there can be two pictures. One is made from jigsaw puzzle, and one is made in a normal portrait. So when we look at the jigsaw puzzle, even though from a distance it looks quite nice, but when we come closer, we see so many imperfections in the image, because of the nature of the jigsaw puzzle. Everything is deformed when you look from close up, but when you look from a distance, they all look similar. So the disintegration of a jigsaw puzzle is similar to being able to disintegrate a jigsaw puzzle. This is being able to see the reality, being able to disintegrate, being able to pinpoint each phenomena that form up, being able to disintegrate different phenomena that form up to make a threatening, beautiful, or attractive thing to blow your mind, or to take away your mind, or whatever. When you are able to pinpoint each piece of the jigsaw puzzle, each piece of phenomena that is actually made possible or caused by their corresponding causing conditions, their corresponding sources, then you will be able to, just like seeing a painting in a jigsaw puzzle, you no longer be attracted, you will no longer be threatened to it, because you know it's made up of a number of small pieces, right? Anyway, so maybe we can discuss this later. So the third line says, how can an intelligent person, a person with intelligence, not comprehend that this path of dependent origination is the essential point of your teaching? So this being the essential point is, as I explained, when you are able to, the purpose of Buddha's teaching is to liberate us, and by seeing dependent origination, we will see that nothing holds any value. Nothing holds value in the sense of threatening us or attracting us in the way which we are at the moment. So therefore, we will be able to let go of things. We will be able to not be bothered by the interferences and interruptions and all forms of obstacles. And by doing so, we will be able to, let's say, peacefully dwell in the meditation of the compassion or bodhicitta and that of the wisdom. So this serves the purpose by understanding, even intellectually understanding of a dependent origination actually serves you a great deal of worry, and and makes you become mind become peaceful. And when your mind is at peace, you can meditate more, you can be more productive spiritually or otherwise. So since this is the essence of the Buddha's teaching, we don't find any other form of praising the Buddha than by praising him for this feat of sharing us the beautiful, the most intelligent, and the most liberating teaching of dependent origination. So comes the fourth line. This being so, who will find, O Savior, a more wonderful way to praise you than to praise you for having taught this origination through dependence, this origination through dependence. So the Buddhas, when Buddha himself said in the sutra that so that the Buddha said the Buddhas don't come and wash away your sins. Likewise, they would not remove your negativities in exchange for their positive qualities, their meritorious and virtuous qualities. And the Buddhas cannot exchange their positivity with your negativities. Through the Buddhas will liberate you, the Buddhas will liberate us by sharing the truth of the Dharma. The only way to liberation is through the Dharma, the truth of the Dharma, the truth spoken in the Dharma. So therefore, even though we can praise, so one of the reasons that Buddha, this is regarded as a very prolific way of praising the Buddha is, even though we can praise Buddha for so many things, we can praise anybody for so many things, for having a beautiful face, an attractive body, and having wealth and this and that, but they are all temporary, so they change, they are all momentary. And the most proficient way of praising someone, or most proficient way of, therefore, the most proficient way for a Buddha to accomplish to fulfill the desires, to fulfill the needs of sentient being is through teaching, through imparting the Dharma. So let's use the term imparting the Dharma rather than teaching, because teaching you would more or less implies speaking words or writing words alone. May not necessarily be, like, for example, when you say teaching a lesson, that is not necessarily a way of speaking or writing. You can teach a lesson to someone by doing something, but imparting Dharma, when we say Dharma actually has a variety of meaning definitions, and the general meaning, the root word of dharma is to withheld, to hold. So whoever practices dharma is being withheld or being held. So the general, the popular translation of dharma in general, whether it's a Buddhist dharma or Hindu dharma, whatever, dharma is whoever practices dharma. Those who practices dharma is held from doing negative deeds or making from getting involved in misdemeanors that will land oneself in trouble. So that is it has many meanings. So let's say dharma. We will use the word dharma, imparting dharma. So there is no better way for the Buddhas to fulfill the desires or the needs of sentient beings, serve the needs of the sentient beings, than by imparting the dharma. In terms of dharma, there are a number of dharma, there are a number of teachings, there are a number of dharma practices, and even though all dharma practices or dharma teachings are important, the main reason or the main purpose of all dharma practices is, of course, to make oneself realize or to see the truth. If you remember, there's a line from the Bodhisattva Charya Avatar by Acharya Shantideva, which says, so that is in the 9th chapter of Bodhisattva Charya Avatar, which he says all the other branches were taught as a stepping stone. All the other branches were taught for the purpose of understanding this one, for the understanding. All the other branches, meaning all the other perfections or all the preceding chapters were taught to prepare one for this one, which is the 9th chapter, the chapter of wisdom. Wisdom is the key purpose here, but we cannot get the wisdom by itself. Wisdom is like the edge of the sharp edges of the sword. You cannot get the sharp edges of a sword without the sword itself. So first you need to get a sword, and the sword is is a steel blade, it's a metallic sheet, and you have to thin it, you have to sharpen it, and so on and so forth. And so first of all, you need to get the iron ore from the. You have to mine the ore from the from underground, and then you sharpen it, and so on and so forth. So at the end of the day, the purpose is to get the sharp sword. But in order to get a sharp sword, you have a lot of other things to do. You have to get a whetstone. You need to mold it. You need to, a lot of other things are all necessary. So the sharp edges of the sword is what the wisdom is. But you cannot get a wisdom by itself. You need a lot of other things. It's like saying, I want taste. Taste is the taste is the ultimate goal. You want to taste something good, but in order to taste something good, you need to have some sort of a food or some sort of a drink. From that drink, you will be able to taste something good. That could be it could be in the form of liquid as a drink, or it could be form of a substance as in food. And in order to get that food, if it's a raw food, a food like a fruit, then you need to plug it. And in order to plug the fruit, first the fruit has to a tree has to bear the fruit. In order to do that, you need to plant the tree, and so on and so forth. So many things to do, and at the very end, you'll be able to you'll be able to enjoy the taste of the fruit. So wisdom is just like that. Wisdom is like the taste of the fruit. But in order to get the taste, you need to get a lot of other things. And so the dependent origination, by understanding dependent origination, one will be able to sort of like one will be able to sear through all these curtains, all these veils, all these curtains, that is actually all these covers, that is all these covers that is actually blocking us from seeing the reality of all phenomena. And so therefore this will get us directly to the test of the substance itself. And so therefore that is why the dependent origination, the teaching, the dharma of dependent origination, such a profound and for sharing that. You are such a you are such a great teacher, and there is no, you are such a great savior, and that you better than to pray way, better to praise you than by praising you for imparting us this important dharma. Okay, so so when we talk, so when we a number of philosophers feels that because all phenomena are dependent upon each other. Of course, everyone agrees that things, a large number of things are dependent upon another factor to exist. Since things are dependent upon others to form, since things are dependent upon others to be existent, things are dependent upon others to arise. Because of that, things do arise, things do exist, and things are things are possible. And since things are possible, things are existing, things are arising, they are not empty. So the very philosophy, the very idea of emptiness is neglected. Oh, sorry. So the very the very idea of emptiness is refuted by contemporaries of Buddha, and not just Buddha, but even during Lama Tsongkapa's time, the very idea of the idea of emptiness is refuted on the very basis of which it is possible. So Buddha, okay. So that is whatsoever depends on conditions, that is devoid of intrinsic existence. Excellent instruction can be there. Excellent instructions can be more amazing proclamation, or this teaching is amazing in this. What is believed up until then, what is believed up until Buddha's time, is actually reversed. What is believed until Buddha's time as reasoning for believing into things having an inherent or intrinsic inherent existence, or intrinsically rising, is actually refuted by the Buddha by proving because things do depend upon conditions, they are devoid of having an inherent existence. Up until then, philosophers say because things do depend upon others, they exist. If they are not existing, how can they depend on other things? If they are empty, if they are empty of having an inherent existence, then how can they depend upon others? So inherent existence or independently existing, because things are existing independently, they have this independent sort of prowess, independent potential to depend upon others. And by depending upon others, they exist. So this is what they claim. This is what the others claim. And Buddha says, because if they have an independent sort of prowess or independent potential to depend upon something else, then they should have the independency to exist on its own as well. If they have the independency, the independence of depending upon something else, then they do not need to depend upon something else. The very independence they have so independence, think of independence as freedom. The very freedom they have to depend upon others is arise by have that independence. If they can exist on its own, they do not have to be existent. So up until then, things have an inherent existence because they are depending upon something else. Hello. Okay, so I am not able to see myself.
I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
I can hear you.
All right. Okay, so somehow I cannot see myself on the screen, but can you see me?
Okay.
You can,
you
right?
were unstable for about 7 minutes or so. You were fading in and out and missing
I'm sorry.
words. That's okay.
So
it's not your fault.
Yeah, I'm so sorry, but
The video is on though. But I mean,
I don't know what happened. Let me just.
We can hear you though. I can hear you perfectly.
So did you guys miss my talk as well, or it's just the video?
We missed some of the talk. It faded in and out when you started the the verse 5.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
You may have limited bandwidth, and so maybe not sharing your video would help with the audio.
Yeah. That's
Hello?
true. So the audio is good.
Yeah, and so is the video. Well, it was.
It may help to stop your video, and then the audio will be better.
Yeah.
Hello?
Hello, we hear you.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. So yeah, I still cannot see myself, but maybe shall I continue?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So
Could you
okay.
start verse 5 from the beginning? It faded.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. So I will go briefly. So the verse 5 is whatsoever depends upon conditions that is devoid of intrinsic existence So what excellent instruction can there be more amazing than this proclamation? So this is in regards to the during Buddha's time and even now, or let's say before Buddha came in, before Buddha came to teach the Dharma of emptiness, it is popular belief that things do have an inherent existence. Things have an inherent existence. Things do have an inherent existence because things are depending upon others. In order to depend upon others, you need to be inherently existing, inherently or naturally there to depend upon something. If you are not naturally there, if you are not intrinsically there, then how can you have, let's say, how can you have the potential to depend upon something else? So in order to depend upon something else, you need to have that potential from your own from your own side to depend upon something. And so this very potential, this very fact that things are dependent upon others actually proves the fact that things have an inherent nature. So that is the popular belief prior to Buddha's arrival. And so Buddha actually reversed that sort of psychology, that ideology, by saying, because things are depending upon others, this proves that things do not have an inherent existence. If things have the inherent nature, or things can naturally depend upon others, things have this naturally born sort of inbuilt sort of mechanism to depend upon others, then they can sort of, without depending upon others, they should exist, they should be able to exist as well. The very reason that they need something to depend upon shows the fact that they do not have the self mechanism of existing on its own. Because things do need to depend upon others, they cannot have this self-existing or intrinsically existing nature. So therefore, whatsoever depends on condition, that is devoid of intrinsic existence. So this is such a profound proclamation by the Buddha, and for that he is highly applauded. So this is amazing proclamation, because prior to Buddha's arrival, nobody thought of that. Everyone thought because things are depending upon others, other factors, they need to have an inherent sort of inbuilt, inherently inbuilt mechanism within itself to depend upon others. And so because of that, they should be inherently existing. So Buddha's refutation sort of point is that if things do exist on its own, if things do have the self mechanism of depending upon others, then they should be able to exist without depending upon others too, because if the dependence upon others is if things have this inbuilt mechanism of inbuilt self mechanism of depending upon others, then they should also have the self mechanism of existing on its own too, which will this will actually come later. So maybe we're jumping a little bit. So then we move to the next, which is by grasping at it, the childish strengthen bondage to extreme views. For the wise, this very fact is the doorway to cut free from the net of elaborations. So this is actually in relation to the previous line, the stanza number 5, verse 5, which says, because as I said earlier, prior to Buddha's arrival, people believed, all the philosophers, even people who have mentored Buddha, they believe that because, so as I explained earlier, because things things do depend upon others to exist. There are cause and conditions. This is a popular belief in the Vedic tradition, in the Indic ideologues and in the Vedic traditions. And they believe that there is cause and there is condition. Whether people believe in a creator God or not, they believe in the cause and conditions. So therefore, things arise because of this and that cause and this and that condition, because of cohesive condition and probable causes. Things arise in this and that form. But this very reasoning, they use the child. So child is actually is a term used for sentient beings. Ordinary sentient beings are also called childish in the dharmic jargon, or in the dharma terms, in the dharma terminology, especially in the dharma text. A child is usually a ordinary sentient being, someone who has not reached the Aryan stage, the noble stage, the stage of a noble being. So they are called childish. They are called childish because they are actually mired in, they are actually embroiled in all these childish things, all these pointless things, pointless in the sense that whatever they do, whatever activities they are involved with, actually brings them back into samsara. So therefore, it is pointless. It is pointless in the sense. It is pointless in the sense that it doesn't get them anywhere. It doesn't get them anywhere in the sense that it doesn't get them out of samsara. So however much they are running, it is like running on a treadmill. So they are not getting anywhere. They're just running on a, within the box of samsara. So whatever, almost all of, so the majority of the task that we are involved with, majority of the activities that we are involved with, a majority of activities that we are involved with actually brings us back to samsara. So in that sense, it is pointless. And for someone who is embroiled in repeatedly, senseless and pointless things, are called childish. So childish is actually a reference to ordinary sentient beings. So ordinary sentient beings like us, we are trapped in samsara, or our grasping into the extreme views are actually strengthened, emboldened by the very logic which the scholastic individuals. So here, the scholastic individuals are those who have actually seen the truth, or in the path to seeing the truth. So here, okay, the term used is wise, right? In Tibetan, it is said kheba. Kheba means scholastic. So anyway, so what the wise here refers to someone who is actually on the right path to be liberated. And so the right path to liberation here implies those who understands, at least intellectually, the philosophy or the ideology of dependent origination. So those who understand dependent origination, they see the very fact, or they see the very thing that binds the childish individuals into samsara as the key or the doorway out of samsara. So what is seen as bondage? What is seen as bondage? What is seen as what is seen as bondage by the childish is actually seen as a key or a knife to cut the bondage, or the escape route by the wise. So how it is so? Because for the childish, they believe that all things have an inherent existence, things are independently existent because they are dependent upon cause and conditions. In order to depend upon something, you need to have that ability inbuilt within you. So inbuilt, that self mechanism to depend upon something else is actually makes it an inherent nature. So all phenomena have this inherent nature within itself to depend upon something else. So that is the claim. And for the wise, they see that very claim, that very logic used by the childish to claim that things have inherent nature as the logic or reasoning to disclaim or to refute what they are claiming. So what is seen as closed by the childish is actually seen as what is seen as a prison, or what is seen as a prison by what is seen as an obstacle by the childish is actually seen as an opportunity by the wise. So for the wise, this very fact is the doorway to cut free from the net of elaboration. So net of elaboration is actually is reference to all. So we are talking about mental elaboration. So mental elaboration or mental embellishments. So all things that we add on. All things that is not naturally there, but we add on. This is this is elaboration. So what is naturally there, we don't need to touch it. We don't need to, change it. So when we add elaborations, then things are seen through the prism of elaboration. Through the prism of elaboration, we see different things. But those are elaborated visages, and they are wrong. And if you want to be liberated, we need to get rid of those elaborations. So we will cover one more line. Okay, yeah, this is quite tough. By grasping at, okay, sorry, since this teaching is not seen elsewhere, you alone are the teacher. Like calling fox a lion, for a Tirthika, it would be a word of flattery. So here I would like to add something. So normally, so we use the term here, the term teaching is used. So in Tibetan, we use a term called Tenpa. So teaching, we say Sangye Song, right? Buddha's teaching or Buddha's speech. Tenpa is a little different here. So I will get into that. So for lack of a better word, I will use Dharma for now. And then also, since we use the term teaching, we also have to use the term teacher in the second line. And this is also, I think it is, so with, I think, with much deliberation, the translator might have chose the word teacher, or for a lack of a better word. So in Tibetan, we use the term Jinpa. So since the original text is in Tibetan, so the term used was Jinpa. So ten and dun. Tenpa is to teach or to impart, and Jinpa is is teacher, more or less. But it also means not only Tenpa. The first word used was the teaching, right? In Tibetan, the word Tenpa is used. Tenpa normally, in strictly in form of Dharma, Buddhist text, Tenpa is referred to the teaching of Buddha or teachings. But Tenpa in ordinary Tibetan in general Tibetan language, Tenpa means to show, to demonstrate, to exhibit. And Tenpa, the second word, which is teacher, means the exhibitor, the demonstrator.
Sorry, Rinpoche, could you unmute yourself? I was trying to mute somebody else whose mic was on, and it switched to you.
Okay. Okay. So the term used was for Tenpa, the term teaching was used, and for Tenpa, the term teacher was used. So if you say a teacher, so if you use the word teacher, then what happens is, so what Lama Tsongkapa is trying to refute here is that other than the Buddha, no other teacher or no other educator, spiritual educator, is a teacher, because a teacher is someone who leads one to nirvana. So this might, lead us into confusion. So for lack of a better word, in strict Buddhist language or terminology, Tenpa is used only for the Buddha. So no one other than the Buddha is a Tenpa. Even like Nagarjuna and others are not regarded as a Tenpa or an exhibitor. They are, of course, teachers, but they are not Tenpa. Because Tenpa is someone who is, the Buddha alone is the Tenpa. But anyway, so here we use the term teaching. So in order to teach something, you may need to you need to be knowledgeable about the thing that you are teaching, but you may not necessarily have to embody what you are teaching. But the word Tenpa actually implies that the person who is teaching whatever, that the person who is teaching something is also exhibiting, or exhibiting the very examples of what they are teaching, what they are speaking. So in other words, walking the talk. So in that sense, so walking the talk. So what we are talking about, getting to liberation, to liberated, getting to getting to the enlightenment. And Buddha has actually walked the talk. Buddha has actually exhibited that he has been liberated. He is enlightened. He is liberated. So therefore, he is actually exhibiting what he is talking, he is teaching. And in that manner, other teachers or the other the proponents of other traditions, such as Tirtika, which is a non-Buddhist tradition, the non-Buddhist philosophers. So they have not embodied the example that they are teaching, that they are setting. They have not embodied the example that they are setting. So in that sense, they cannot be declared as a Tenpa, an exhibitor. So for a lack of a better word, we used teacher here for easier to simplify the meaning of the word. We use teacher, but I don't know. My suggestion is exhibitor and exhibition, but that may also not be sufficient. So you can also. So what Tenpa or Tenpa is closer to exhibition, to exhibit, and teacher, or sorry, Tenpa is to exhibit, exhibitor, the one who exhibits. So it's even stronger than demonstration. Or even to demonstrate something, you need to have something to demonstrate. You need to have an object to demonstrate that. Teacher can actually teach something from a book about a lot of things, and not necessarily demonstrate. You also have in a classroom, a teacher teach something from a teacher would say something from the textbook, and then they would demonstrate it through experiment and so on and so forth. So a demonstrator or an exhibitor, more or less, because this is the inner practice, internal practice. So an exhibitor is closer to the term Denpa than teacher. Well, that's my humble understanding. But of course, if it is translated as, since this exhibition is not seen elsewhere, you alone are the exhibitor, then I think people would get a different idea. So anyway, so this is for your reflection. So like calling fox a lion for a Tirtika, it would be a word of flattery. So, yeah, so this is, it doesn't mean anything. So let's, so because of that, okay, one more line because they are connected. Wondrous teacher, wondrous refuge, wondrous speaker, wondrous savior. So in Tibetan, it's very beautiful. It rhymes very beautifully. Emao, Denpa, Emao, Yep, Emao, Mancho, Emao, Guns. So that then the fourth line is, I pay homage to that teacher, or I pay homage to that exhibitor. Then just read the 7 and 8 line in Tibetan. Then the Shendo Matonwe Denpa Sheja Kunite, Wage Lane, Sengeshin, Mude Jelang, Jambu Sik, that is line 7 verse number 7. Then Emao, Denpa Emao, Gep Emao, Mancho Emao, Denjin, Dejing Lesson, Denpa Tala Dacha Cell, that is verse number 8. So wondrous teacher or wondrous exhibitor, because he has exhibited so he exhibited actually what he has experienced. Because of that, he is a wondrous, absolutely wonderful exhibitor, absolutely wonderful teacher, and wondrous refuge because he has, by believing or by applying that the Dharma that he has spoken into our lives, we will be saved. And then he is such a great speaker because the way he taught the essence of Dharma or the essence of liberation is very eloquent, and also it is especially in the sense of teaching, imparting the Dharma of the dependent origination. It is concise, and it is practical, and it's powerful. So therefore, he is a wonderful, skillful speaker. And because of all those three, he is a great savior too. So I pay homage to that teacher, exhibitor, who taught well the subject of dependent origination. So this concludes today's teaching. So open for questions.
Hello, Rinpoche. I really liked your example. Oh, sorry. It's Jackie. Jackie Healy. I really liked your example last week of the donut, the 40 donut. And so I was hoping.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question? Yes, please. Please go on.
Yeah.
Can you repeat the question?
I liked the example last week of the 40 donuts to help us understand.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
That was very good. I was hoping you could, I didn't quite get the jigsaw puzzle example. I didn't, because the donut is all of the events leading up to the 40th donut, but I don't really understand when you apply it to something that has dependent parts to it, like the jigsaw puzzle.
Mm-hmm. Right. So all the individual pieces of the jigsaw are the causes and conditions that things are dependent upon. So when we look at a picture of made of jigsaw puzzle from a distance, from afar, it seems like this is one big picture. But when we scrutinize it, when we get closer to the picture made of jigsaw, and then we scrutinize it, we see, each individual, the nose, the ear, everything, each individual sort of image is dependent upon that individual piece of jigsaw. So whether it's an attractive portrait or whether it's a terrifying image, when you look at it from afar, it seems scary, it seems attractive, it seems this and that. But when you get closer to it, and when you see that all those images are based upon particular individual pieces of jigsaw, then you feel, oh, there's nothing to be fearful of. There's nothing to be too attractive of, because all these are actually, you know, sourced to this and this and this and that. So there is no big picture in a sense. There is no one large image to be scared of, one large image to be terrified of, one large image to be attracted towards, or in other words, one large image, one large form to be attracted towards. There's no one entity. It is not one entity that you are, even though you are attracted to an object as one entity, that very entity is actually made up of different entities that are dependent upon different cause and conditions, just like the donut example. So it is not that one last piece of donut that actually satiated your hunger. It was actually all those jigsaw, all those donuts formed together that actually satiate your hunger. Similarly, it is all those individual pieces of jigsaw put together that actually makes it a terrifying image or an attractive image. So there is no single individual sort of image as you see from afar. When you look closer, it is different pieces of puzzle that actually makes it into this large piece of attractive or terrifying image. Is that?
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you very much.
Rinpoche,
Rinpoche, can you hear? Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Yes, I can hear you. Mm-hmm.
Yes, hi. A quick question about the sixth verse,
Mm-hmm.
where you explained very well the fact that the wise believe that this grasping is like a key to the door, and
Mm-hmm.
I understand that to mean that by applying logic, you see, you refute the view of the childish. I'm wondering if you have some examples or suggestions for how we could use that logic in our own lives,
Okay.
just in a day-to-day situation. Yeah.
Sure. The first thing is that it is not the grasping that is the key or doorway to liberation. It is that by grasping at it. So that it actually implies to dependent origination. So dependent origination, grasping at it. By grasping at dependent origination, because things depend upon others, the very theory or the idea of dependent origination actually becomes a focal point of grasping for the childish. And that very which is dependent origination becomes the key, the doorway or the key to escape from samsara for the wise. So in that sense, okay, so do you still have the same question, or?
Okay, so I understand.
It's the
yes,
yeah.
yes. So it's this idea that the way I see things, or what I see is the okay. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Your explanations are extremely clear. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
This teaching.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for the feedback. Thank you.
Rinpoche, I guess I'll fill this void, although I don't.
Sure.
So my question, you alluded to, you said, I think you were saying dependent existence, you alluded to it implying inherent existence, and different conclusions can be, can come from that. So to the extent that we take the position that of dividing reality into conventional and ultimate reality, to what extent do we, kind of set up I think big question is, to what extent do we set up the idea of liberation from that, right? That, you know, dividing you know, having a thought of conventional reality and ultimate reality, you know, kind of also implies this whole idea of liberation, right? From, you know, samsara. So one question might be is, you know, how do we talk about samsara in relationship to this idea of conventional reality? You know, and I'll just throw that out. And
okay. Okay. Right. So the first sort of in regard to your first sort of the question or statement. So it was because things are dependent upon others, so therefore they must have an inherent existence. So that is conclusion reached by a number of philosophers prior to Buddha's teaching, and this is a sort of a the statement that because things depend upon other factors, cause and effects, cause and conditions, therefore things do not have an inherent existence. That sort of theory or that sort of idea is a discovery, so to speak, made by the Buddha. And even though this is a statement, this is a discovery made by the Buddha and spoken, declared by the Buddha, it is not sort of like well received by all tenets of Buddhist, and which we will cover. You know, this will come later, anyways. So in regards to in regards to your question about ultimate and the conventional and ultimate reality, so conventional reality is what we are passing through, and ultimate reality is what we are trying to get towards. So there is the path and there is the sort of the goal or the destination. So there's the journey and then there's the path. So the journey can be difficult, it can be fun, and you know, a lot of things, and all these are the journey. So you know, you might not get your car might break down on the road, or you might meet some wonderful people on the road. You know, you might get to experience some wonderful things, might take some wonderful pictures of the sunset and so on and so forth on the journey. So these are all realities, but they are conventional realities, so they are temporary, and it is not something to be stuck with. And what we should be sort of, for a lack of a better word, so what we should be obsessed with is the ultimate reality, the ultimate goal, which is to regard all those things that you have. You know, the journey has been very wonderful, fantastically wonderful, but still that is not what we should be obsessed with. Our obsession should be with the destination, because this is where, you know, we have to get. So in order to get to the destination, whether you fly, whether you ride a train, whether you gallop a horse, or whether you drive a car, that is up to you. It depends on whether you are scared of height. It depends on whether you are, you know, your inability to drive, or your fear of riding a horse, and so on and so forth. So depending upon different conditions or different situations, different conditions, you will try different routes to get to the ultimate destination, or the ultimate reality, the destiny, which is the destination. And that is what you should be obsessed with. And so we talk about, you asked about the sort of the limitation, or the, you know, to what extent we should be going. So the extent is, in order to get to the destination, so in order to reach the destination, you can try different pathways. So it can extend to anything, and the idea is to reach the ultimate goal. the ultimate reality, to realize, to see ultimate reality. And that can be depending upon your your perception, your what is the word, mental disposition. You might like the simple practices of the Theravada system or the non-Mahayana system, or maybe a little elaboration from the Mahayana perspective of the bodhicitta and 37 practices of the bodhisattva, this and that, and a little bit more. Or you really like sophisticated practices of the Vajrayana, which is controlling the wind channel and so on and so forth. So these are all of these, these are also the path. Vajrayana is a vehicle, is a car, is the mode of transportation. Vajrayana, yana means vehicle, it's the mode of transportation. Mahayana, it's a yana, it's the vehicle. Theravada or Hinayana is yana, it's still a mode of transportation. It is a vehicle. So vehicle is not what you should be obsessed with. You should be obsessed with the very idea for inventing the car is to get a person from point A to point B, and then as time evolved, people began to elaborate, decorate, or improve the car with this and that, air conditioning, faster, and so on and so forth. So the very so the point is, depending upon your mental disposition, you should choose the path or the vehicle that is preferable for you, and that is to the extent to which you should be going.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. And just one quick follow up.
Please.
Many people reach points where they have conflict about behavior that is motivated by morality, or that is brought about by an idea of ultimate reality, right?
Ultimate reality, right.
So the kind of the position of somebody wanting to do something and having all kinds of conflict about it because they see that it's not things are complex and interrelated, and it's not necessarily seem to be beneficial for all, right? Mm-hmm. So at that point, I think one can think that through using the concepts that we're talking about now, but there's also a point at which you kind of throw your hands up and kind of absurdity, comedy, existentialism, so
right.
So how do you see that point playing into what we're talking about here? Because dependent origination is a understanding, a position, a teaching that has implications, but it doesn't seem to resolve in all situations, right? So I mean, as long as you're kind of in this duality, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. It does. It's I get you, but I don't know if I can provide the answer. But my humble understanding is that the paradox of existential crisis, or the existentialism, that why is not much relevant for a Dharma practitioner. If you are into the Dharma, if you believe, or if you are interested in the Dharma practices, or not practices, like if you are interested in the philosophy of the Dharma, if you are into the Dharma practices, then I don't think the existential crisis will pop up at all. But let's say if you are not really into the Dharma, but somewhat interested in the, in those things, in the explanations or the explanations and the ideologies presented in the Dharma text. In that sense, you will find a lot of things to for a lack of better word, let's say, you will find a lot of things to get yourself busy with. And the thing is, it doesn't really matter the purpose of why we are here and what we are doing, and what's the point of living, all those kind of like existential question. Sometimes when we think too much, we kind of think those things. And actually, there's no it will be very difficult for you to find a sufficient answer for this question, because you are looking for an external answer to an sort of an internal question. Because the purpose of why you are here and what you are doing and what you are supposed to be doing, all these kind of things is something internal. It can only be internalized. And but you are looking for the answer to that question through external means as to why. And most of the time when we are looking for it, when we say why, we're actually looking for those signs in the outer external world. And when we look for an external answer to an internal question, then we will never find the answer. It is like looking, so there was this fable there's a, long time ago in India. So there was this, very wise minister and so forth. Anyway, so there was the story goes that there was a man who was looking for it. He was looking for something in the under the lamp or under the moonlight. So there was a moonlight, and he was looking for something. And the wise minister, came upon and asked him, "What you're looking for?" And he said, "Oh, I lost my ring, and I'm looking for my ring here." And so the wise minister said, "Oh, okay. How does it look like?" And then he kept searching for him, and then they couldn't find it at all. And then, "Do you remember, where was the last time you wore it, and so on and so forth?" And he said, yeah, until I came to the jungle, it was there. And in the very dense jungle, I slipped and I fell down, and I lost the, when I stood up, the ring is no longer with me. So, and then he said, "Oh, so it is in the jungle then?" "Right, it is in the jungle, yeah." "Then why are you looking for the ring in here in the city?" "Oh, because there is light in the city. In the jungle, it's so dense that there's no moonlight and I cannot find it." So,
so you perfectly illustrated what I think really the point of my question was that the existential crisis can bring one to a point of comedy, right? And relief.
Right. One thing is absolutely correct. Like, you can look at yourself, if you don't find anything interesting in Dharma or anything else, you can look at yourself as you can look at your life as a theater and yourself as an actor. And while acting, observe the mode of conduct or the activities of the actor himself. So be the actor and the director both. Be the observer, be the spectator, and the be the spectator and the spectacle at the same time.
Okay, so that implies another question. Are the two inconsistent? Is that view inconsistent with the Dharma practice?
I think it will be inconsistent with the Dharma practices, because Dharma practice is all about, there's a goal, as you pointed out in your original question. So there's the ultimate goal, right? There's an ultimate purpose. And the ultimate purpose is actually not self-gratification. It's actually to help other sentient beings. And in order to, so the very reason we are here is to serve others. So it is as simple as that. And if you look for any other reason as to why you are here, then you will not find much in the Dharma. Even so, that is the extent as to how much Dharma can explain. Like, what's the point of we are being here, or what we are doing here? Oh, we are here to liberate ourselves. We are here to get we are here to get us out of here. And when we get out of here, what is the point? Oh, when we get out of here, we will take others out of here. So that is, and it will revolve around and around, and then it will just, you know, this will, it will be an incessant cycle. Yes.
So I can see saying it's inconsistent, but you just described the path, right? You know,
exactly.
I mean,
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Exactly. Right. Okay. Right.
Rinpoche, I just have one quick comment. I love that you said this process was internal, and I don't want to ask my question. I'll wait to another time because it's late. But we have so loved your teachings, and we know that we only have one more next Friday, but I am so praying that you come back in July, or if not July, August, or we just continue on through because we're still in our quarantine, and I don't know, but I think Gloria is going to be reaching out to you about that. But you know, I don't see wanting this to come to an end, although everything is impermanent. But I'm just, if you have any other time, or if we need to set up a new schedule with you, because people, you know, masters of great capacity seem farther and fewer. And we need to, it feels to me, even maybe grasping or clinging, but it's to just have more of this profound wisdom and learning. It feels like I just have to ask and request.
Right. This is positive grasping, so it's excusable.
So please think about it. You don't have to answer right now. I know you're busy, but we'll even. I know we'll all.
No. Actually, Gloria reached out to me 2 days back, and also I responded to her. So I will be continuing this for some time. So no worries. We will certainly finish this dependent origination, and I'm not hurrying up. And I explained to Gloria that, you know, how much
I think we lost.
We will too, you know, if not too slowly, we will go quite slowly, and we will. I don't want to go just on the surface, you know. That will be kind of like pointless. So go on sort of a right appropriate pace, and then we will certainly finish this teaching.
Thank you. All right. Tochije.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I lost the connection. So can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can still hear you.
Okay. So I conclude. I stop here. Let's just do the quick dedication. Chanju semjo Rinpoche maye banam geology keba nyamba meba nyangkone kondo pewara sho pama simjen tamje dedan english ngendro tamje tado tonga da chanju semba kana so shu wa teda kunji nam geology. May those who have not generated bodhicitta generate the bodhicitta, and those who had already generated bodhicitta be able to extend it to extend it further. And may all sentient beings who has been our parents and relatives and so on and so forth be never be parted from happiness, and then may the lower realms, the 3 lower realms, be empty of sentient beings, and may all the bodhicittas who were living in the wherever the bodhisattvas, I'm sorry, may whomsoever bodhisattvas are living in this world, may all their prayers be fulfilled.
Can we do Mig Saint Ma also?
I'm sorry?
Can we do the Mig? Yeah. Sure.
So we'll do one time. This will be the 5-line one, okay? With the Vajrapani one.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
It was wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Jane, Natalie, Jackie.